What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I am your host. We are bringing on a special guest that you have probably seen on Instagram, probably seen on TikTok. He is all over the place. It is Edward from Investacard. We are live. Thank you all for watching the video and listening to the podcast. Edward, how are we doing today?
We are great. I appreciate you having me on, Adam. I appreciate it. And yes, we are live with the Herosforsale podcast here.
Yeah, I love it.
And Adam, I remember you being on my show was probably during the quarantine, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
It's when we first started, sort of doing some marketing on Instagram as well as on, TikTok and stuff. And you were the first interviews that we did on our show when we were doing it on quarantine. So seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to hear. It was a ton of fun coming on the show. Definitely mixing it up during quarantine. Things got a little crazy. So now before we get into kind of your background and kind of Investacard and everything like that, I want to talk about live. How did that start? Because I think the like Gary Vee has the show. How did the catchphrases of channels and people are always super interesting to me. So how did that kind of come about?
It just came about, I think, naturally. I think at the 2019 National, and a few of the guys that came with me said, why don't you do some videos? Why don't you go on Instagram? Instagram seems to be pretty hot right now for sports cards. I wasn't really much into the whole Instagram thing. Didn't do a lot on social media, but we were, I think, in the hotel room, and I just saw, just came to me and they said, well, you what, you should go live, Eddie. You should go live, like Instagram live, because we came to the National with a lot of cards to sell, a lot of good cards. And that's how we, that's how we launched the whole Investacard brand. And they said, Eddie, you should go live. You should go live. And I'm saying, no, man, I don't want to go live. So let's just do a video. And I said, we are live from the National. And that's where it all started. And it just took off from there and took off. And I sort of just turned it into a whole, regular intro.
Yeah, I love the stories behind those are always so funny, because it's always that's almost the story you hear every single time. It's for me, the intro to the show is just I did it one day and then I did it the next day and the next day, and that kind of turns into what the intro is. So for you with Investacard, is this kind of your first business venture that you've gotten into, or where are you at with businesses? When you saw sports cards, or actually, so we'll start with that and then we'll get into how you kind of got into sports cards too. So how did you kind of get going with Investacard itself?
So I was, I've been collecting sports cards my whole life. I've been a hobbyist since I was a little child. As long as I can remember, just going to the store and trying to pick up, packs of cards. And then you graduated to realizing that in order to get some, to get the cards you wanted, you need to buy boxes. And at such a young age, I was buying boxes of, tops back in, 1985, 86, 87, and go to the store and buy the whole box for $20. And we were doing breaks back then. That's, we brought it home, we laid it on the table, and we bought a couple of boxes. Maybe I bought a box, another friend bought a box, and we started to rip. So been, had a strong love for sports cards since a young, and then when I grew old enough to start selling cards, I used to, rent tables at the local shows, and I started to become a dealer and sell. And I think just being a true entrepreneur that I was, I figured out a way that, hey, listen, I want to run my own shows. And at a young age, probably in my early 20s, I was promoting card shows, and I was always had the knack to market and drive customers in and come up with some creative stuff to do. And we started promoting card shows, and I started raising money back then to bring in autograph, people to do autograph appearances, a lot of famous guys. And then of course the market crashed, and, back in the mid 90s, and as being an entrepreneur myself, I moved on to, as I got a little older, I moved on to other businesses. But always been that entrepreneurial spirit, always had that drive to run my own business. And so that's what I've been doing, for the last, seems like the last 30 or so years. I had a quick serve Philly cheesesteak concept that I created, that I built up and I sold. I was in the fragrance business for probably about 5 or 6 or 7 years, selling to wholesalers and retailers all over the country. I had a small chain of retail stores myself. I built that up. And then for the last 10 years, I was in finance, and I had a private funding company where we helped and lent money to businesses all over the country. And I did that for like the last 10 years. About 4 years ago, though, I started to see the sports card market come back. I started to read stories on the internet, listening to podcasts, reading like all-time highs on cards from like platforms like PWCC. Shout out to PWCC there, and ComC. And I started to research it more and just, got into it. I started going to shows and buying up again. And of course, now I have adult money. And back then, I didn't have the adult money and on the cards that I could buy dream cards and I was able to go to the shows, and I started to buy these cards up, vintage cards. I was into vintage, knew nothing about modern, and had to learn it all. Everything from, the brands and, so many of them that came out, didn't know what a prism was or an optic. I was always used to base cards, Topps, Donruss, and Fleer. So I had to learn everything. That's why in the beginning, if you start to see the videos, it was just me learning. But just like anything else that I've done in my career, I put 100% into it. I stay razor sharp focused, and I live, breathe it, and eat it all night long until I'm really, really good at it, and then I can beat the next guy. So that's how I sort of, got into it, back into it about 4 years ago. Started going to shows, buying up cards, and about maybe a couple of years ago, I was walking around a show, and I was looking from afar, and each and every show that I went to, it got busier and busier, and I started to evolve. It started to evolve. Even at the National 2019, you could buy Luka Doncic PSA 10s on the first or second day for $60, $70. By the last day of the show, there were already $100 or $120. And I started to see this, and I said, there's something here. And I figured I want to create a platform where we not only sold, bought and sold cards, but I saw a huge opportunity walking around all these shows, and so many people having raw cards, and I saw the whole hype and grading coming before it came. And I figured, listen, all these people are sitting with raw cards. They don't want to go through the whole process of sending them in and selling them. And, a lot of people are, lazy and they don't want to do any of the work. No disrespect. But I saw an opportunity to create a platform where we can help them monetize, and let's build some technology, and let's see if we can do something similar to what I was doing in my last business. Let's take in the raw cards and let's provide a full service for them, where they send it in and we can get them graded, service them, market them, sell them, and have really good reporting, and cover all the costs for that. And that's what we did with the Investacard partnership program. I think I gave you a pretty long reply there, but it took you sort of from the beginning to, sort of where we're at today with it.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect answer. I think it kind of shows the businesses you've been involved in, and kind of how you got into sports cards. So like for you, I know you talked about going to shows and seeing how each show it got more and more busy. Was there a moment that for you were going to these shows and then you said, I'm going to try and start a business around sports cards? Like, was there one moment, or was it like a collective kind of that you saw, like when you were going to these shows, that it got busier and busier?
Yeah, it was a moment. Obviously, being an entrepreneur, like I said, I always say, or people always, one of the smartest guys once told me is, Eddie, you're an entrepreneur. You may not be not only a businessman, but you're an entrepreneur. And I think I got to a point in my life where what I was doing, I had built it up to the point where, it was time for me to move on. And I need to be excited every day I wake up, and I need to do something that I have a lot of passion for. And that's what I gained over the last 2 or 3 years before I got into it, by watching this stuff. I said, well, if I can build another platform, and I see maybe we can build a company here that can do, another $50 million a year company, top line revenue. And if we could do that, and we love sports, and we can employ people, and I can do this for a living, you mean? I started to see that, and that's where it became the aha moment that this is a real business here, and the cards are going up and down like the stock market, and this is real here. And you mean to tell me I can build a business out of it? My dream was always to be like a radio talk show host, where I always said the best job that anyone has was to be able to get paid a huge living to do talk sports on the radio. So that almost gave me this is what I almost get that same thing out of this, right? And it's just getting started. So
Yeah, and I mean, now that you're saying that, talk show radio host was kind of one of your, as a kid or maybe as you were getting older, one of the jobs that you really like, that totally makes sense watching your videos. Like, you can totally tell that, like, you have so much great energy in your videos, and they're always kind of like going all about like all that. I'm a big fan of the videos. I think they're a ton of fun, and I think they're really cool. So you had recently a big deal with Investacard, and I just was interested to hear you talk about that and maybe expand upon kind of what happened.
Sure. It's definitely an exciting time for Investacard, not only for, myself, but the whole team at Investacard that got us to this point, and all the followers and people that watch us out there. Can't do it with it. It takes a whole team effort on our side, as well as all the followers and people who purchase from us and support us. I've always been a big fan. We released some news a few days ago. The full press release it's coming out this week. I just had to sign off on it and read through it and so on and so forth. And so did Marcus and his team over there at Be Loyal. But back in November, I was rushing home from the office because I knew that they were having a show on Instagram Live. The Prophet, of course, during the pandemic, they weren't shooting live shows, but he was doing them on Instagram Live. And that night he had a special night where he was going to let any company come on and be able to pitch, right? And he was looking for companies for the show that was, had some innovation and some opportunity there to grow. And I just remembered that it was going to be on that night, like maybe about 30 minutes before. And my office is like 20 minutes. And I didn't want to do it at the office. I wanted to come home and relax and see if I can get on. I had been watching Marcus Lemonis and the Prophet Show from the early beginning, since it's first started on CNBC. And I used to record his shows and watch them. And I would replay them and watch them for the last probably however long it's been on, 7, 8, maybe, years. And I used to take a lot of stuff from the show and use it in my sales meetings. So I had, was watching him for so many years. I realized he was doing this on Instagram Live, and I wanted to try and go on. And I remember that night I was rushing home, right? Got home just in time. And Marcus was supposed to go live, I think, from the Prophet CNBC Instagram page, but they were having some issues. So I saw it wasn't on. And then I saw he was live on his personal page, and he was going to try and do the show from his personal page. So I logged on, and there was like over 3,000 people in the live. I said, maybe I'll get lucky. And I was, and I watched a few people. Obviously, some people that came on were prepared, and of course some people were totally not prepared. And there I was sitting on my couch, and he picked me. And it was showtime. It was ready to go live from Investacard, right? With him. And I think, we did a good job in pitching him. We knew our numbers. We knew what our, of course, when he asked you the elevator pitch, you got to know it. You got to be able to shoot it out real quick. And I think from all the hard work and learning the industry over the last couple of years, I was able to, explain it pretty thoroughly. Got lucky, and of course, I got real lucky because he's just started a brand new fund called. He owns a company called Be Loyal Investment Group with, and one of his partner in that group he's been buying and investing in sports cards for like the last 4 years, and he was following us. So perfect timing, I guess. Everything in life is about timing. And of course, the next day I got a email from the VP of acquisitions from Be Loyal Investment Group, and one call led to another and to another until a meeting, and that was on November 10th, and we were able to close a deal just a couple of days ago. So less, a little less than 60 days or so. But when it's a match, it's a match. When we're on the same page and the passion is there. In many of my other businesses, it was always challenging for me to make a decision if I was bringing in a new partner, because you just never know, right? When you start something from the ground up and you bring somebody else in, you hear a lot of horror stories, and it's got to be the right person. I felt these guys were right. I felt it right away. And of course, not bad having Marcus Lemonis into the hobby. Right. And he's a great businessman. Can lend definitely a lot of thought leadership to the company. And the vice president of business acquisitions, Gio Senefi, which we posted up a video in our feed just recently. He was in our offices yesterday, has a strong passion for sports cards, super smart, and is going to turn us into a sports card technology company where we can sort of, automate the whole, the way the market moves, whether it's the right time to buy, sell, or stand still, or what have you. So shout out to Gio over there at Be Loyal Investment Group for getting this deal done with Investacard. We're looking forward to a long, and we're just getting started here. So long relationship.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's so awesome to, as someone who is a commentator on the hobby and someone who does a lot of research and spends, 10, 12 hours a day in sports cards, seeing big names like Marcus come into sports cards and investing money is something that I think it's something that I think we're going to continue to see kind of as we go throughout the years here. We're going to see more people, like we're going to see potentially athletes. Like there was a picture of Deshaun Watson, I think at a Beaker Trading, I think in New York. So he was there. And then there's a picture of him with the Michael Jordan card on his sweatshirt. So, I think we're going to continue to see kind of these big companies and influential people in different spaces come in, and it's extremely exciting. So I'm interested to hear, and I'm sure people in the audience are interested to hear, do you have any advice for somebody who is trying to start a business around sports cards? If they're passionate about sports cards or they buy and sell, like, what's something that you could tell people to tell people for their business, or give some advice for if they're trying to run a business with sports cards?
Yeah, I would say probably the number one thing is to try and be creative and think outside the box, and come up with something that nobody else is doing, where you can, provide a service and some added value, and everybody is buying and selling. Everyone is buying and selling on eBay, and but if you want to turn it into a real business outside of just buying and selling, because we're always going to be buying and selling, right? That's but come up with a service that you can provide to the collector or the sports card investor or enthusiast. On our side, obviously, we came up with the partnership program. It serves a lot of value. Just send us your cards and we'll handle it. We'll partner up on the cards and we'll evaluate those cards, and we'll try and get the maximum value out of those, where we can turn your raw cards into a real investment and sell them and do it on our platform. That's a service. But there's many other things that are out there that nobody else is doing, that I think that's the best advice I can give. Come up with something that someone else is not doing, and then offer that as a service. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's great advice. And I agree, being innovative and creative, I think in this hobby space, we're still, in my opinion, we're still very early in sports cards and in the growth. So I think the innovation and creativity is going to kind of come along as more people get into it and more creative people, and maybe even like bigger names come in here.
Sure.
So, you kind of mentioned it a little bit with the deal with Marcus. Like, what else do you guys have planned for 2021 and beyond?
So, obviously our main thing is the partnership program. And the one thing that they really liked was the partnership program. Marcus, really, obviously he has no real experience in the sports card hobby. He's a sports fan himself, but his partner, Gio Sinefi, is the sports card enthusiast there. So it makes a good team because we got the business sense right, and in business you don't need to know everything about it to be able to build out a good process and have good people. So our goals is to build out the partnership program, add technology to it, and continue to build out our partner portal where people can, a collector or investor can send in their cards, and it's turnkey, and we take it from start to finish and cover all the cost and sell that card on the platform. Outside of the Investacard partnership program, obviously we've been doing a lot of live shows. So we do it on both ends. We do a lot of buying and selling, and we came up with the Invest-A-Lot show. Again, being an entrepreneur, just trying to come up with something different than the next guy. I saw an opportunity there to create a show, similar to like QVC or something like that, but with sports cards. And I think it has a long way to grow. So we're going to grow out the Invest-A-Lot show, which runs every Monday night. It gives you the opportunity to purchase lots. And the great part about the show is everything that we sell is below eBay. So it's always below eBay. I feel when you're buying in lots, it's definitely better because you're getting more than one. And if you're going to invest in a player, well, you might as well buy more than one because you're usually going to get a better deal. And obviously you're going to save on all the grading. And a lot of people that are flipping into sports cards need to take that into consideration when they're buying. The time that it takes to get the cards back from grading. There's a value. There's a value to that, as well as being able to buy 10 at one time or 3 at one time. So that's what we provide on that. We are going to also build out a couple of more live shows. We have the high stakes slab show that we're creating, which is going to be all high stakes slabs. Everything is $500 or more. It's going to have a different vibe. We're going to add some entertainment to the show. And that is going to be probably starting in the next couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. I want to make sure that it's, we're just not going to turn on the lights and it's just going to be, a regular show. I'm looking for a different vibe in that show. We've got, of course, Invest-A-Break, which is another live show where we're going to be breaking, and we're going to have that, on a regular basis on Instagram, and it could be some older boxes from 2003 Topps Chrome. It could be a 1980 Topps basketball, or it could be a 2019 Prism. So we are going to build out the Invest-A-Break show, so you'll see a lot more of Investacard live with in terms of ripping. But we've got some creative ways to do breaking. It's just not going to be your traditional way. Again, it's always outside the box. We're going to offer what we call partner breaks or syndication breaks, where we have could be a $5,000 box, and maybe we have only 3 or 4 partners in it, and then everyone is in on the box, and then all those cards that get ripped from the box go right into the partnership program to get graded on a 5-day PSA, any of the big hits. So it goes from the table into grading, and then we can sell it. So, a lot of stuff ahead. Of course, we're always buying and selling, but those are I think the main key things to what we're looking for in 2020. Of course, adding on, some technology, some exciting technology that I can't really talk about right now, but
right.
I think it's going to be really good for the hobby.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's there, like I said, like I just was saying, the creativity and kind of the innovation, I think, in the hobby is coming. And I think, if you can be on the forefront of even trying something new, I think that's going to give you a step up in kind of the hobby businesses. Cause it feels like there hasn't really been much changes to anything really in the hobby up until, up until recently, like in the past, maybe from the late 90s, even through the 2000s, and then even into the early 2010s. It feels like, at least from the research that I've done, there wasn't much change. So I think that's definitely something that's going to be good for the hobby and healthy for a ton of companies in the hobby. So I've got one last question for you, and it's a question that I ask all of the guests that come on the podcast. What would be your dream card?
I'm a vintage guy, so I would there's probably a couple of cards in there. The dream card probably doesn't exist, and that would be the 1965 Topps Joe Namath rookie card. It's the longer version of it.
Very
right?
cool. Yeah.
Longer version. And so there's no PSA 10s. There's a PSA 9. It last sold for, I want to say like maybe 300,000. Wait, that was back in, that was like back in maybe 2000, either 16 or 18. So can you imagine what it's going to bring?
Yeah, I mean, you could add a 3 or 4x value to that. I mean, because like you saw with the,
but there's
with the Trout card and the PSA 9.
There's no PSA 10s in this. It's a tough card to grade. Back in 65, it was that long boy, and it was a lot of them were off-centered and stuff like that. And obviously I've got had as high as an 8. I think I had a 9, but I might have sold it probably within the last 4 years when I first started. But not a 9, I'm sorry, an 8. But there's a low pop on the 9s. If it's not that card, then of course, probably the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle, PSA 10. Maybe
such really wild card. So, I mean, actually, before we wrap things up, I guess maybe I can get your thoughts on that recent sale of the PSA 9 for $5.2 million. It's such an astronomical number compared to like back in 2018 and 2017 when I was kind of getting back into it. Seeing that card sell back then for 2.8, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Now it's selling for $5.2 million. So, like, what do you like that sale? Like, what do you think of that sale?
So, when you think about it, a lot of people look at it and say, well, it's a lot. That's a lot. But I would say it's brilliant marketing. I would say that if you look and see how much coverage he got, the buyer who bought that card, who's got a lot of other, a couple of good companies, and he was on every media outlet for, a couple of days there, every major media outlet. And if you go and try and add up the value of advertising and marketing that he got on every major media outlet, you would say that he got the card for free, almost, because the card sold for about a little over $2 million prior. He paid like 5.2, and if you figure he got $3 or $4 million worth of marketing, that means he paid $1 million for the card, right?
Right.
If you look
at exactly.
From that point of view, brilliant, and so. I think it's all good for the hobby. I think the hobby's just getting started. I think that it's got a long way to go. It's a real asset right now, and people love it. It's like being able to invest in your favorite. It's like buying a stock. But instead of a stock, you're getting a card, and you're able to invest in your favorite sports star, and which rivals like sports betting, but has real liquidity to it. Real liquidity across the board. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger. I think we're going to see record-breaking prices continuously, on a lot of cards. And each and every day, brand new people come into the hobby. I think it's all great for the hobby. I know sometimes people don't, the hobbyists or the percentage of people that, look at it from a negative point of view, but a lot more kids are coming into the hobby, even though they can't afford the packs. Who knows? Maybe that's my next move, to create a product. Maybe work with Panini to create a product where we can have something affordable for kids, right? Where it's not sold out at the stores, where there's not just a line of people, of collectors and flippers that are buying this retail product. So I think that has to be fixed. I think within the hobby, and I think with innovation and with some outside the box thinking, some of these companies will get it. These big companies will get it. A lot of smart people coming on board, and I think they'll figure it out, and got a long way to go in the hobby. So I know I enjoy listening to your podcast. I listen to it every time. I watch your content. I've been watching you since we first got started, and I'm pleasured to be able to come on and speak with you here. So appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for coming on. And just before we wrap things up here, I want to make sure that you can tell the audience where they can find you and any media outlets that they want to look you up on. So go let the audience know where they can find you.
Of course, Instagram is our main platform. We run, we're always posting videos, and of course, we run the Invest a Lot show there every Monday night, somewhere around 8 o'clock or so. You can find the High Stakes Slab show. You're going to see some marketing come out for that. You go to, if you want to sign up to become a partner, we are approving brand new partners. You must be 18 years of age to sign into agreement to become a partner with Investacard. You would go to investacard.com. You go to the partner section, click on that, fill out a little quick form. After you hit submit, you're automatically going to get the partner pack, which is going to include the partner agreement and the payout schedule and some other information in there. And it'll give you the payout schedule for if your card is sold on eBay. Remember, we're going to take your raw card in, we're going to get it graded, and there's a payout schedule for eBay there, and there's a payout schedule now if your card is sold on one of our live shows, which is exciting because if it gets sold one of our live shows, we have like instant funding. We integrated with eBay and stuff. So, and with our system, once we put your card in our system and it gets sold, it sends out the payment automatically. So we're excited. We've got some exciting stuff coming on that. Find us on, go to investacard.com, fill out the form, become a partner. And if you have any questions in regards to anything, we've got really good portfolio and relationship managers. You can call in. You'll be connected to a relationship manager or myself. I'm always willing to jump on a phone call with a partner to go over cards, to go over an order or anything. That's what we're there for. So that's where you find us, investacard.com. I appreciate the time and for you having us on.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on.
Okay, my man. Appreciate it. Keep up the hobby hustle.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Okay.